In today's video, we're taking a look at this. No, not this. This is the Solar Uni Spider SP modular bivvy system, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so this really is a top of the range bivvy from Solar, but there are two versions available. Like I say, the SP is the top end one, but there's also a slightly more stripped back version called the southwesterly, and we will be looking at that as well, but just touching upon that because the main concern is this all singing, all dancing, top of the range bivvy system. So I think there's a lot to talk about with it, so we're going to have to cut this into 5 main points. So let's jump into it and find out all that this has to offer. Well, if I'm completely honest, this point I wanted to do inside the bivvy, but as you can probably see, it's very, very dark in there, which that doesn't really translate too well for actually filming. Now, that is thanks to the material, which is a big percentage of this point. So the material is Solar's SolarTex D. Basically, it is the heaviest, darkest, most dense, most waterproof, best material they've ever used on a bivvy. And yeah, that is obviously super useful if you're wanting your bivvy to be nice and dark. And this is really beneficial if you're trying to get some sleep during the day. If you zip up the front door, it literally is pitch black during the day. So even though it is the thickest, heaviest, best material Solar have ever used, that doesn't mean that the actual bivvy system weighs a ton, when the whole lot comes in at just 8.4 kilos. So within the 8.4 kilos, what do you actually get? Now, we talked earlier about it being a modular system, which we will touch upon more a little bit later, but you get the main bivvy itself, you get the storm poles, you get the pegs, and you get a vapor shield. So all of that is included, and then, like I say, you can buy extras as you see fit. Some people don't use ground sheets, some people don't use fronts, so why pay extra for it if you're not going to use it? Like I say, we'll move on to that in a little bit, but as you'd expect, all of it is top quality from Solar. So let's move on to the next point, and Iain will talk you through that one.
Okay, so moving on to the setup. Now, as you guys have probably seen loads of different bivvies with this sort of central hub design plenty of times before. I'm sure you are probably fully aware of how they work, but I will just quickly run you through it. Obviously, when you get it out of the bag, first thing to do is to insert the poles together. They're all sort of anti-twist poles. There's 5 of those. So first of all, get those together. Obviously, get the bivvy up on its side and then fan it out. The 2 front poles will initially be towards the back of the bivvy, so you pull those round, lock them into the keyhole locks, and then just attach the Velcro straps at the front. Pop your storm poles on, pop your pegs in. Other than that, this is absolutely perfect and ready to go. Get your kit inside and start your fishing session.
So as we've come to learn with Solar over the years, attention to detail is something that they really pride themselves on. And on this bivvy system, of course, it's found throughout. Little things like having 4 rod retaining straps rather than 2 make a difference when you want to rebait all your rods at the same time, and then you've got a spot or marker rod as well. But that's not the main point of these. They're actually magnetic. So you can probably hear that click, which means the Velcro is not going to wear out over time. They can't fail you. Simple as that. Now, other little things that make life a lot easier, something as simple as the storm poles. They don't screw in place, they simply click in place. So you've got a little bit here, which then clips onto the main bar, tension that up, and then that's done. It's a nightmare at times just trying to get them to actually take hold if you are screwing them. So a little clip like that makes it a lot easier. The other thing is you've got a little key lock system here, which means when you actually push the main bar through, you then just click it up in place. Things like that just make the whole process so much more streamlined. If you go for the ground sheet option, it actually zips in place, and it doesn't zip flat. There's a little lip all the way around the bivvy, so it actually raises the sides a little bit. So if you've got a really wet session, if you've got water running underneath your bivvy, then it's not going to actually get all your stuff wet because it can't physically go over it unless you're fishing in 6 or 8 inches of water, which, let's be honest, you're probably not going to set up in that situation. It's going to keep all your stuff dry, which is what you want from a ground sheet. And whilst we're on the subject of the ground sheet, because it zips in place, because of the rigid nature of the bivvy, in theory, you don't even need to use pegs. So if you're fishing a venue where you just can't simply get pegs in, once you've set this up, you've got your kit inside, it's not going to go anywhere. And if you actually look around the bivvy, the tensioning is against each of the poles. So you're not actually using the pegs to tension the bivvy. So it's a really handy point. Like I say, if you're fishing rock hard venues, you don't need pegs unless it's hurricane conditions, which, let's be honest, it doesn't happen that often. yeah, it's good to go. So moving on to the inside, there's a nice little organiser at the back, which is on one of the rear vents. And I mention vents because there's actually quite a few of them.
Yep, so as Luke mentioned, there are 4 vents around this bivvy, aiding with airflow throughout those summer months, and they're all accessible from not only the outside of the bivvy but from the inside as well, and that goes for both the waterproof panel and obviously the mozzie mesh. Next up, we're going to take a look at some of the accessories that are available within this module system. So as we mentioned earlier, there is a whole host of different accessories available to fit onto these modular bivvy systems. Now, first up, as we have already said, we've got the ground sheet. Then you come onto the infill panels. Not only is there a waterproof infill panel, but there's also a mozzie mesh one, and that is one of the typical solar ones with the magnetic sort of catches. So as you burst through it to get that fish, it shuts behind you, and that way the mosquitoes are not going to creep in there without you noticing. Aside from those, you've also got a skull cap available, which is fantastic throughout the winter months, just to aid with sort of keeping that condensation to an absolute minimum. The vapor shield already does a very, very good job of that, and it's probably unnecessary, but it is an extra for those of you that like to use one. And then last but not least, there are 2 extended porches, one at 0.5 meters and one at 1.2 meters. So it's absolutely monstrous. If you're someone that likes to go abroad for long fishing trips, that would be right up your street. Okay, and last but not least, we have got the...
You've done it again. This is a southwesterly version, and like we said, this is a little bit more stripped back than the SP version, but it's still a very nice bivvy, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a lovely bit of kit. The main sort of and the most noticeable difference is going to be obviously that material. It's a slightly more sort of lightweight material. Don't get me wrong, it's still plenty durable enough, fully waterproof and breathable, and it's going to do the job that you need it to do for many years to come.
Yeah, exactly. The next thing to point out is the block is slightly different. Mechanism is exactly the same, but it's made out of like a hardware and plastic as opposed to the aluminium/stainless look on the other one.
And then a couple of other things just to be aware of. It's only got 2 rod retaining straps on this one as opposed to the 4, and rather than being magnetic, they're Velcro. And then the ground sheet, rather than being zip-in, is a clip-in ground sheet. So yeah, other than that, they're extremely similar, the 2 bivvies, and yeah, I mean, I'd quite happily have either one of them.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely bonuses or kind of pros to this one. Obviously, it's going to be cheaper and it's going to be a bit lighter as well because you've got lighter material and then the lighter block as well. But yeah, it really depends if you want top end or more than good enough. Yeah, that's up to you to decide. But thanks for watching this video. Do you want to do your subscribe bit?
Yep, so we should probably say a massive thank you for the guys over at Willow Park for letting us come down and film this. And yeah,
Dave from Solar.
And Dave from Solar.
Thanks, Dave.
He did help put the bivvies up, so we've got to give him a little bit of credit, I suppose.
And he made coffee.
He did once.
Twice, I had
Twice.
2.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's irrelevant. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe if you haven't already to CARPology. And if you want to find out more information about these solar bivvies, then head over to the Solar website. And somewhere there's going to be more videos popping up because we like to do an end screen like that, don't we?
One side, this side? This
Maybe
side.
in that camera? Okay, who knows?
Side.
Bye.